事实上，这样的态度根本就是要向人民开空头支票。
The cabinet is taking the heat over its latest proposals for a multi-billion-dollar aid package.
我们是不是合理的怀疑，执政党利用检调单位来恐吓人民？
Tensions are high as another opposition party office is raided in the ongoing controversial recall movement. Could Taiwan's submarines be a game changer for defense? We find out. Plus, relations spiral between India and Pakistan after tourists were murdered in Kashmir. Hello and welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. Time is running out on a 90-day pause in steep U.S. tariffs. And here in Taiwan, lawmakers are urging the government to make every day count. Joyce Zeng has more.
Under the shadow of paused U.S. tariffs that stand to upend the global economy, lawmakers grill Premier Zhou Rongtai on Taiwan's progress in safeguarding the country's interests, despite limited choice for friends in a world mired by a U.S.-China trade war.
我们是跟世界的民主友盟国家一直保持 互相信任可赖的关系，
但是现在川普的重拳，他是不管民不民主啦。现在的问题就在于，已经不是价值的问题，而是价格的问题。
Zhou is defending his cabinet's updated proposal for a special fund of $12.6 billion US, which he says is needed to protect the economy and national security. It's a sum almost 5 times more than the originally proposed aid package for local industries to help weather potential blows from U.S. tariffs. In the new package, $2.9 billion would go towards tariff relief, $4.6 billion for security-related spending, which the cabinet says would include strengthening the Coast Guard and developing drone infrastructure. Over $5 billion is earmarked for societal support, more than half of which set to go to state-run power utility Taipei to help address its multi-billion-dollar losses in recent years. Opposition lawmakers are slamming the plan, saying it strays away from the original purpose of the special budget, mitigating the risk of U.S. tariffs.
到底是经济还是国土安全？
都一样，在这个范围里面。
事实上，这样的态度根本就是要向人民开空头支票、空白支票了，理由根本不清不楚。
With just days until a cross-party delegation is set to land in Washington for talks with U.S. counterparts, stakes are high for Taiwan's officials to get on the same page despite different opinions on how best to safeguard the country's interests. Ryan Wu and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
A leading economic think tank in Taiwan is predicting the country's GDP will grow by 2.9% this year, down from its previous forecast of around 3.4%.
目前，我们看得比较清楚，就是第二季。那3、4季要等川普的对等关税出来才会知道。
The Taiwan Institute of Economic Research, or TIER, says it's seen consumer and investor confidence take a hit in recent months. That's as the global economy reels from uncertainty over U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policy. The institute says the turbulent trade environment may impact the currency exchange market, which could further complicate the country's economic outlook. As countries around the world brace for Trump's tariffs, several countries here in Asia are expecting to be hit the hardest. The proposed levies could have a lasting impact on the economic and security order in the continent. And to find out more, our reporter Adil Brar spoke to Raja Mohan from the National University of Singapore.
President Trump has slapped hefty tariffs on pretty much the whole world, with China hit the hardest. Now there's a 90-day freeze on these tariffs. How are Asian countries responding to the new trade shock?
Look, I think the Asian countries have a special challenge. For many of them, China is an important economic partner, but most of the Asian countries have a large amounts of trade deficit with China. While these trade deficits are a problem, we also have a situation where most of Southeast Asia or Asia's exports go to the United States, just like China's. So the US is a major export market. So in that sense, China is the destination of most imports, while the US is the destination of most exports. So I think that both the relations are important for Asia. So navigating between the two at this point, I think is going to be a great challenge because the US is also under Trump. Not only has he raised tariffs, but he also wants to shut the back door for China's exports to the United States through Southeast Asia or other countries, so that he wants to reduce that as well. And that's why even uninhabited islands have been put on the list. So I think this is actually a major moment for Asia, because last 50 years, Asia has benefited from the US-China economic integration.
President Trump's tough talk on alliances has left many partners uneasy. Do you think this is a long-term departure from the traditional commitment towards defense and security?
You have one bunch in the US establishment which is saying, look, let us withdraw from Middle East, let's withdraw from Europe and focus more on Asia. They argue China is the principal threat, therefore US must concentrate its military resources in Asia. But there's also another section which is saying, look, that it is, US should not be engaged in defending its allies. The US should focus on retrenchment and that the allies should do more. So I think that argument is there. If the argument that the Washington has made in relation to Ukraine is extended to Taiwan, saying that, look, the US is not going to defend Taiwan, or that the regional countries must have to do it. So we are in a new situation.
So there's a lot of buzz around Vietnam and India possibly benefiting from US President Donald Trump's tariffs, as Apple has shifted some of their supply chains from China to Vietnam and India. Is that really the case?
I think you have to be careful with this proposition. These things take a long time. I mean, I think it's almost 4 or 5 years since Apple has shifted some iPhone production to India, but the majority still remains in China. So while there is an opportunity for countries like Vietnam and India to do more manufacturing, taking advantage of the situation, there are differences between these two countries as well. Vietnam is far more open to foreign capital and ease of business, while India has some distance to go. Therefore, I think in India, unlike Vietnam, which are run by communist parties, simply can't open up and say, look, here is our labor force, do what you want, and let's have more production.
That was Raja Mohan of the National University of Singapore. You can watch the full interview with him on Zoom In, Zoom Out by visiting our website or YouTube channel. Another group of local leaders from the opposition Kuomintang have been detained over suspected fraud in recall campaigns. It's the latest in a mass movement to unseat lawmakers from both the KMT and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, an issue dividing the country. Here with more is Cadence Quaranta.
Prosecutors carry out raids at several locations, including the opposition Kuomintang office in Yilan in eastern Taiwan, as multiple current and former officials from the party are detained, suspected of forging signatures on recall petitions. It's just the latest investigation into alleged misconduct amid Taiwan's mass recall movement. The campaigns could upend the legislature, as civic groups, increasingly backed by political parties, scramble to oust dozens of lawmakers from both the KMT and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. This time, prosecutors are focused on a petition drive to recall Democratic Progressive Party lawmaker Chen Junyu. KMT members have repeatedly criticized investigations into recall fraud, saying they're being used to silence opposition voices.
我们是不是合理的怀疑？执政党利用检调单位来恐吓人民，让反对民进党的这些想去联署的人不敢再去签联署。
But as allegations of fraud pile up, DPP legislator Chen Junyu has hit back. In a written statement, he accused the KMT of trampling on Taiwan's democratic system. The KMT is planning to hold a rally in Taipei on Saturday to protest the investigations. It comes after another rally last week, where large crowds of people turned out to sign petitions to recall KMT officials. As each side continues to fire shots and more campaigns come under investigation, Taiwan faces growing political tensions and a divide that may be increasingly difficult to bridge. Alex Chen and Cadence Quaranta for TaiwanPlus.
In Indonesia, the local film industry is making a big comeback with some help from homegrown horror stories. Lauren Padamore reports on the scares.
Indonesian cinema is seeing a resurgence, and it's stories like this one, taken from local folklore, that are topping the box office. In Indonesia, horror fills seats, making up 70% of all movie admissions last year, with over 50 million tickets sold.
The stories are so familiar with us because we heard about this kind of stories since we were a children. That's why it's very, very close to our culture, to our memory.
The film resurgence started from 2010 with new independent filmmakers turning to high-quality horror films, focusing on local stories. Some of these directors are now going commercial, paving the way for more projects. Indonesia produced 258 films last year, and 60% were horror.
Kalau Indonesia, mereka lebih menonjolkan kayak kearifan lokalnya di setannya gitu. Entah kayak itu pocong atau kuntilanak. Nah, kalau untuk di luar negeri, mereka lebih kayak ke demon, iblis, kayak gitulah.
That's Pocong, the spirit of a dead person wrapped in burial cloth, doomed to wander the earth, and well known and feared in Indonesian folklore. With such strong local support, Indonesia's film industry contributed $8.2 billion to the economy in 2022. And it's not yet peaked. Analysts project 6% growth by 2027 as Indonesian films reach more international audiences.
Our movies are already wanted in the Southeast Asia, in Asia, and some of them are traveling to the Western world. And yeah, we hope that our audience getting bigger and bigger.
By going local, Indonesia's film industry is aiming for the world, meaning you might just see ghosts like Pocong in a cinema near you. Chris Ma and Lauren Padamore for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, we take a look at life inside the world's most polluted town. Stay tuned.
April's top hits on TaiwanPlus. Spring is a time for fresh beginnings.
I have not yet been to a Taiwanese market.
Taiwan is often considered a food paradise.
A local Indian of 30 years shares Taiwan's culture, cuisine, and life tips with her new friend. It's also a season of journeys.
I'm in my new uniform.
Can the happy fisherman complete his epic journey around Taiwan? Across the sea, on Japan's westernmost border, spring brings questions about the future.
これ以上要塞化しないためにどうするかということはやっぱり台湾有事って阻止しないといかんと思うんですよね。
My mom is Saishat and my dad is New Zealander.
Reconnect with shared histories through a Saishat girl's return to her roots.
I earned my way back to the tribe.
Vibrant and original programs exclusively on TaiwanPlus.
Game on Taiwan. Baseball season is back and off to an exciting start. Get ready for every pitch and every bat. Basketball teams are giving it their all with fierce competition as they fight for those coveted playoff spots. And with the World Master Games approaching, athletes worldwide are ready to showcase their skills in Taiwan. Game on Taiwan, your front row seat to all the action.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. China says its Coast Guard has taken control of a disputed reef in the South China Sea. State media published a photo of officials holding a Chinese flag on Sandy Cay, a small uninhabited sandbank. According to the report, the Coast Guard claimed the reef in mid-April. Sandy Cay sits near the northern edge of the Tizard Bank in the Spratly Islands, an area claimed by both China and the Philippines. Tensions between the two countries have been rising, with China stepping up its presence across the region. It comes as China's Shandong aircraft carrier was spotted near the Philippines just days before the start of joint U.S.-Philippine military drills known as Balikatan. Taiwan's defense ministry says there is no date set for the next phase of tests for its domestically made submarine. Initial reports had suggested that sea trials for the vessel could start in mid-April. But just how important are submarines for Taiwan's defense? Well, we dive deeper with Jaime Ocon, who spoke to Tom Schugert from the Center for a New American Security.
So we still haven't seen sea trials for these domestically made submarines. I want to first ask you, how important is this kind of capability given Taiwan's situation?
I think that this is a relatively sensible way for Taiwan to spend some of its defense dollars, in the sense that submarines, as long as they can get underway and get out to sea at the beginning of a crisis, they are a survivable platform in a way that a lot of other things that are on Taiwan are not survivable, given the scale of the threat from the PLA strike forces. If those submarines are at sea and they can hide, they can if they need to rearm and refuel, they can do it in other places. They're certainly far more survivable than air bases or surface ships that are going to be very vulnerable to destruction, given the scale of the threat from the PLA, and in particular the PLA rocket force.
Now, let's say that Taiwan does manage to produce 8 submarines and have them in the Navy. What kind of operations or missions would they be conducting?
So if you look at the different mission sets that submarines diesel submarines like that can engage on, the ones that are the most important are probably anti-surface warfare, so sinking surface ships. Also ISR, so intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, the ability to be able to observe what somebody else is doing without them necessarily knowing that somebody's observing them. That's a submarine mission that's been going on since. So, and certainly when we look at the idea of a Chinese blockade of Taiwan, so something where Chinese surface ships and submarines are off of Taiwan's ports, preventing access for resupply. Submarines are the perfect system to go out there and literally break some of those ships in half. And add a lot more risk to what's involved with attempting to isolate Taiwan by blocking its ports.
These systems are extremely expensive and quite a big investment. Is there anything else from the naval side that Taiwan should be investing in?
The kind of things that I have recommended in testimony before to the U.S. Senate and to the U.S. China Commission are that I think Taiwan should be investing in systems that are survivable, that are distributed on a day-to-day basis, that don't require fixed facilities to operate on a sustained basis, and they're going to survive day one of a war. Submarines are and also that are going to be good that'll be useful for trying to stop an invasion. So anti-surface capabilities. I think the submarines that they're looking at meet all 4 of those requirements. There are other things I would also be working on. I'd be working on smart mines, and I would have them deployed now in peacetime, because one thing I think people should understand, I understand Taiwan's investing in mine-laying ships and whatnot. If China has made the decision to invade Taiwan, they're not going to watch Taiwan lay the minefields to stop them. I think it's very unlikely. So minefields are great, but lay them now. Lots of coastal defense cruise missiles, like the Harpoon missiles they're buying from the United States. That's great. They're on trucks. They're distributed. They're dispersed. They should be relatively survivable. Those are the kinds of things I would be investing more of.
That was Tom Schugert from the Center for a New American Security. The Supreme Court has ruled against one of Taiwan's major air carriers, which was seeking $1 million in compensation from a flight attendants union. Flight attendants from EVA Air went on strike in 2019 after they were unable to come to an agreement with the company on salaries and working conditions. EVA filed a suit against the union representing their flight attendants, calling the strike unlawful and demanding compensation for its losses. A district court ruled that the strike was lawful. EVA appealed that decision multiple times, but lost each appeal. The Supreme Court's decision is final. Over 600 Chinese nationals are suspected of illegally entering Taiwan under false pretenses with the help of a dental clinic. Prosecutors say the Taipei clinic worked with 2 travel agencies, creating false treatment plans to help Chinese nationals enter Taiwan. Once in the country, they took illegal jobs. A special task force is investigating those involved. The clinic's head denies all wrongdoing and was released on bail. The health ministry says there are at least 2 other medical institutions under investigation. Relations between India and Pakistan are deteriorating rapidly following the killing of tourists in Kashmir. The murders and subsequent diplomatic responses are fueling protests across the region. Here with more is Reese Ayers.
From burning Pakistani flags in India to calls for peace in Kashmir, and demands for water access in Pakistan. Protests are erupting across South Asia as the already fraught India-Pakistan relationship takes a sharp decline. On April 22nd, 26 tourists were killed in Kashmir, a disputed region administered by India. Those who escaped with their lives tell of targeted attacks.
We have finally breathed a sigh of relief now that we have reached the airport. The militants were marking out Hindus and killing them there.
New Delhi says they've already identified several of the gunmen involved and that a Pakistani rebel group was behind the massacre.
We will pursue them to the ends of the earth.
Pakistan denies playing any role in the attack. The murders have sparked a rapid tit-for-tat escalation in diplomatic responses, with India closing borders and cancelling visas, and suspending a decades-old water-sharing agreement between the 2 countries. India says it's prepared to go further.
This is just the first step. These are the non-kinetic first steps that the government has taken to change the rules of engagement with Pakistan. That is no longer business as usual.
Pakistan has warned any attempts to restrict access to water would amount to an act of war.
India is fighting a low-intensity war against us, and if they want to scale up the tensions, we will be ready. No one should have any doubts.
In response, Pakistan is closing airspace to Indian airliners and has suspended the peace agreement that effectively set its de facto borders with India. Both countries claim much of Kashmir, and disagreements over who should control the region date back almost a century. The most recent escalation has the UN calling for calm.
We very much appeal to both the governments of Pakistan and the government of India to exercise maximum restraint and to ensure that the situation and the developments we've seen do not deteriorate any further.
Conflicts in the area have a history of getting violent, and analysts and diplomats are warning if things continue to deteriorate, the entire region could again be plunged into crisis. Kama Shu, Adil Bra and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
A city in northeastern India known as the most polluted in the world lives in a constant state of crisis. Air pollution is so rampant it causes skin rashes, sending children to the hospital. Zalan Shatta reports.
2-year-old Samaya Ansari has just come off oxygen support. Now, she's playing with her brother. A bright moment in a place where the haze never lifts. They live in Bernihat in northeast India, the most polluted place on earth, where even the walls turn black.
She faces difficulty in breathing, congested chest, and coughing, among other issues. It has been happening for the last 8 to 9 months, almost a year, but it has aggravated recently.
With tens of thousands living in the thick pollution, many more people are at risk. Vehicle emissions are high here, and the town is home to around 80 industries, including distilleries, steel plants, and cement factories. Bernihat also sits between the states of Assam and Meghalaya, and its bowl-shaped terrain traps the air. It gets so toxic here that it causes skin rashes and burns the eyes. In the health clinics, coughing adults and children line up for help.
In most of the cases that we see here, be it adult or in pediatric section, we see most, like 90% of the cases will fall in cough and cold. So in OPD, and likewise, the total number of cases will fall towards respiratory problems.
If a child does not respond adequately, requires multiple hospital admissions, requires administration of oxygen or even ventilation for that matter. So these are a group of children who are at risk to develop long-term lung damage. So which can eventually cause multi-organ dysfunction when they grow up and become adults.
India has bypassed many environmental safeguards in the name of economic growth. And in Bernihat, the smoke lingers everywhere. Pollution here is 25 times higher than what experts consider safe. It's so bad, people can't even dry their laundry outside or grow a garden.
Everything in the surrounding area has turned black. Earlier, there was just one factory nearby, but because of the new factory, we are unable to grow anything like betel nut or leaves. We cannot even stay indoors.
But following a stark warning from a Swiss air quality watchdog, change might finally come. The state governments of Assam and Meghalaya have agreed to collaborate, forming a joint committee to tackle Bernihat's pollution, a move that many hope will clear the air and put a stop to the health crisis. Eason Chen and Zalan Shata for TaiwanPlus.
And thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. As always, follow us on social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these bluebells blooming in a forest in Belgium. Try saying that one 5 times fast. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.